Hi everyone, my name is Gail Lee and this is my COM 273 Story to Make a Point presentation. I want to share a story about an event that happened in my life that occurred to me. I graduated from high school and started thinking of going to college. I applied to BYU Provo and I got accepted. This was about 3 months before the semester started. I started to look for a place to stay and I was notified that the dorms are already filled and told to look off campus for an apartment. I found a list of apartments and started to call to see if they had anything available. Some of them told me they were already filled. I found an opening south of campus that was very close. They told me they had an opening, so I sent my money off for the first month's rent. When the time got close for me to travel to BYU, I found someone in the ward that was driving her car with one other person and asked if I could ride with them. She said yes. She was a junior and was her first time in a different set of apartments, and she was living with people that she knew from when she lived at the dorms. 3 days before the semester started, I packed in 2 large suitcases and went off from my house to BYU. It would be a 24-hour drive. We drove for 2 days and reached Provo. I looked at my confirmation to see where I was going to stay, and all I had was a name of the complex and an address. The name of the complex was Marcello. My friend drove the other girl to her apartment and then drove me to mine. As I looked in my confirmation, I did not see the apartment number that was listed on the piece of paper. We walked to the manager's office, which was by a very nice pool, and I saw the note at the door that said manager was out and would return later. No time, just later. Back then we didn't have cell phones, so I couldn't call someone to get a number for the apartment. My friend said, let's go to my apartment, then we can come back later. So we went to her apartment, unloaded all the stuff. I sat in a chair and waited for an hour or so and then said, can you drive me back to my apartment so we could see if they came back? She said, yes. So we drove to the apartment and went to the office, and they still were not there. The note was still on the glass door. We drove back to my friend's apartment again, and I waited for another 2 hours. And I said, can we go back again? She said, here's my keys. You can go and see. I felt lonely. I felt afraid. I was a little scared. It was my first time away from home. I drove back to my apartment again by myself. It was late afternoon. I went to the door, and the note was still there. What would happen if I don't find the managers? How will I get my room assignment? Where will I stay that night? My friend's apartment had so many people there that I didn't know if they had room for me. In fact, I think she mentioned that someone was staying on their couch that night. So as I started walking out, there were 2 tall white buildings facing each other, but there was no one around. Each apartment had 12, each building had 12 apartments, and on one side they had stairs that you'd walk up that led to each apartments. Although it had a lower ground apartment, and then it had a second level and a third level. On the first ground was 1 through 4, the second level was 5 through 8, and the third had 9 through 12. I was struggling with fear. I was beginning to lose hope. And all of a sudden I decided I need to say a prayer and ask Heavenly Father for help. I pleaded for help in my prayer to find the manager so I could find the number. I decided I would have to go back to my friend's apartment and make arrangements to see what I could do. So I turned around and walked back out toward the complex, and I could see an apartment that was open on the second floor. Someone saw me and said, do you need help? I said, yes, I'm looking for the managers. And I think she could hear it in my voice. I was scared. She said, I've not seen them all day. I said, I'm trying to find out what apartment I'm in. She said, what's your name? I gave her my name. And she said, oh, you're in here. I was relieved to find my apartment. I knew that it was an answer to my prayer. Heavenly Father had placed her in the doorway so I could be comforted and get the answer to my prayer. He was mindful of me and of my struggle with what was going on, what I was going through. and where I was going to live for the next 2 semesters. Oh, and by the way, the apartment was number 7, and that became my lucky number for that semester.